Okay, welcome back. We're going to continue where we left off. In this section of our Altium Designer tutorial, we're going to talk about placing parts on our schematic. Now, we've already generated our project. You can see we have our schematic. I'm up here in the top left, and we have our printed circuit board. We have no parts on there. This is going to be very similar to PSpice with a couple of editing differences. Let's start by placing some parts. You'll see a tab here that says Libraries. One thing I want to make a point about is in Altium Designer, that tab may or may not be on your left side. You'll see that I can grab this tab and drag it over to the right side. Alright, it's customizable. There's a little push pin right here on the top right of my libraries, and that'll be the same with all these tabs. File, Projects, Navigator, Filters. If I open my library tab and click on the push pin, it will lock it in position. You'll see now that that won't go away. If I come over here and edit my schematic, nothing changes on my library. It stays in position. It uses up part of my screen, right? And I'm not really happy about that. I'm only on one screen here, so I want to use as much screen as possible for my editing. So I'm going to unclick, and you'll see that when I move my mouse to my schematic, my library tab goes away. Now inside my library tab, you'll see I've selected miscellaneous devices, but there's a lot of libraries open here. Miscellaneous devices, connectors, there's a bunch of FPGA parts. I want to edit that. I don't want all these unnecessary libraries opened. So come up here to the top of my libraries tab. I'm going to actually move my libraries back over here, and I'm going to click the library toolbar here. When I click it, it's going to open up all my available libraries. You'll see I have a project library, installed library, and search path. I want to go to installed. Now, which libraries do I have open that I need? Currently, I want miscellaneous devices, which will give me transistors, resistors, capacitors, op amps. Miscellaneous connectors, that'll give me the male headers, B and C connectors, the similar devices, D connectors like your RS-232 connector. I don't need my Altera Cyclone or an FPGA 32-bit. So I can highlight it and say remove. I can also highlight one, come to the bottom one, hold my shift key, left click. I have them all highlighted now. Remove. I'm just going to leave the two libraries right now open that I need. I'll show you later how to install more libraries. Okay, we have our libraries now. Let's close. And I can come over to my library section here in our libraries, and you'll see I have the section that I've opened, right? The particular library. Here's what's in the library. Different parts. Here's a schematic symbol. I'm going to edit this down a little bit. I'm going to edit a few things down a little bit. We're going to make some of these pictures a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. Okay, and I'll move this. Sometimes it starts off like this, so I'm going to change my library window. Just drag it over a little bit so I can see it better. Alright, and you'll see parts, all these different parts. When they show you a part, here's a bridge rectifier, you'll see the schematic symbol here. They'll show you what the footprint is. The footprint is what the part physically looks like. If we go to, say, a resistor, there we go, resistor 1. Here's the schematic part. You're used to seeing that schematic part. Here's what it looks like. That's what's known as a through-hole resistor. It's the resistors that you used on your little prototype boards when you were doing some of your circuits classes, and you'd plugged a little resistor into your prototype board with the wire leads. Those leads were meant to go through holes and be soldered in. They look like this. Here's another resistor. Notice the schematic symbol looks the same, the footprint's completely different. This is a little tiny rectangular chip. It has no leads to go through the board, and it lays on the surface of the board right on the contacts on the PCB. It doesn't have pins that go through. They call that a surface mount device. So you'll see as we go through, we're going to build a little schematic here, and later we're going to want to edit our parts because we're going to find out that the footprints may not match the actual parts that we have. So let's start off. I'm going to come up here and select op amp. Here's the schematic symbol, here's the footprint, and I have a button up here on my libraries that says place op amp. If I left click, I will find the op amp connected to my mouse. As I move my mouse around, the op amp moves around. If I want to rotate my op amp to face a different position, unlike PSpice, this will be one of the few differences, I use spacebar. Click my spacebar, click, 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 it rotates. In PSpice or LTSpice, you do Control R. In Altium, spacebar. So I can move it around wherever I want it. I can zoom in and out with page up and page down. I can also do the control button and the wheel on my mouse. As long as the control button is down, I can scroll in and out. If the control button's not down, it scrolls physically up and down. Okay, so I'm going to left click. That will place my part on my schematic, and you'll see the part is still attached to my mouse. This gives me the option to place more op amps for a larger project. I don't need that, so I have two options to stop placing parts. I can right click or I can hit escape. Either one will stop placing the part. There's my op amp. Alright, back to libraries. Let's get some resistors here. We're going to place some resistors. Same thing, I highlight my resistor, I come up to place resistor, and I can place a input resistor, a feedback resistor. Let's see, I'm going to rotate. I can place a resistor here for my non-inverting input. I'm going to go back. I right clicked to stop placing parts. I'm going to go back to libraries. I'm going to place this resistor, resistor 3. It's kind of the same schematic symbol, different footprint, just so we can see it when it goes on the board. Place resistor. I can put this over here for my output impedance. And I have op amp with my resistors. Now you'll notice I have red squiggly lines here. These red squiggly lines is Altium Designer's method of telling me there's a possible problem. And the possible problem is I have R question mark, R question mark, R question mark, R question mark, 4 of them. They all have the same designator. You can't tell them apart. If I leave them this way, any net I connect to this resistor here will be connected to this resistor here, be connected to this resistor, this resistor. They're all the same resistor. I need to number them. Now let's look quickly at how we can number our resistors. If I put my mouse on my part and right click, I have the option of properties. Alright, I'm going to close the properties. I'm going to go another way to get to the same place. Put my resistor over the part. Up here on the top this time, just double click, properties again. Here it says R question mark. I can edit that. I can go back and say R1 and hit enter. Notice I don't have the red bar up here now, just on these three because they are the same designator. Now if I do Control Z, I'll undo it. My red bar comes back. That gives me an option to manually label my parts. That's fine, but that can be a lot of work, right? What happens when I have R1, R2, R3, R4? My design changes over the next few days and I end up with R1, R2, R7, and R6. Now what? I have no R3, no R4. I have to go by and manually adjust all those. Not good, right? So let's go up here to Tools. Under Tools, I have a section that says Annotate Schematics. I want you to left click on Annotate Schematics. And here's a tool inside Altium that will let us auto number the parts for us when we're ready. Here's the order of processing, across and then down. You can change it. Right? You can go up You see all these different methods of numbering. Whatever works best for you. I'm going to leave it here. And you can say, which schematic sheet am I going to annotate? My op amp sheet, we only have one sheet in this project. What order are we going to do? Like our start index, do I want to do R1, R2, R3? Or I can start with R100 if I wanted to. Or 1100, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can start where you want to. This can be handy when you have several sheets in one project. So if I have a bigger project and I have, say, 3 sheets in there, I can start sheet 1 on 100. I'll have another one here that'll say op amp, different sheet number, start on 200, another sheet number, start on 300. If I do that, when I place my parts on the board, I can tell on my schematic parts, when I'm looking at the PCB, I can tell which sheet did it come from. If the part starts with R300, 301, 302, I know it came from the schematic number 3. Alright, so here it says we're just going to leave all these as default. I can tell it update the changes, and what does it see? 1 op amp, 4 resistors. Update the changes. It says 5 changes made. Very good. Accept changes. I'll accept them. Execute the changes. Execute them. Close. Close. My parts are all numbered. My little red wiggly lines went away, and that's fine. That's a lot of work to do that, right? Let's do this. Control Z. I'm going to undo it all. I'm going to double click my op amp. I don't like it labeled AR. I'm used to those type of integrated circuits being called U question mark. So U1, U2, U3. Now let's go back up to tools. Remember our annotate schematics. Now we're going to go to annotate schematics quietly. I'm going to click on that. It says 5 things need to be updated. Do I want to change them? Yes. Done. That's the fast way to do it. Now the annotate schematics quietly works fine, and it uses the defaults that you have set up in when we did the tools annotate schematic section here. If I change this, which direction, if I change the start index, that's what it saves and knows how to operate. And then when I go back to tools and do quietly, it'll go through and fix them all using those predetermined options. I can always undo them. I have tools. You can see that I can reset duplicates. I can reset all of them. If I do this, it'll reset all of them. That could be handy, like I said, when you do a lot of changes, a lot of functions change, a lot of parts come and go. You can reset them all and renumber them all so they'll all be in order again. Alright, I'm going to come up here to File, Save All, and that'll be our first section on how to change and add parts on our schematic. Thanks.